My name is Riley, and when I was little I used to think heroes wore capes or uniforms or had big shiny badges, but my hero wore a faded denim jacket and always smelled like campfire and mint gum. My Uncle Mason was the kind of person who could light up a room with just his presence, the kind of person who remembered every birthday, every inside joke, every dumb thing I ever liked and made it feel like it mattered. He'd crouch next to me during storms whispering that thunder was just the sky's stomach growling, and when kids at school called me weird for liking books more than soccer, he'd say that being weird was just being interesting before everyone else figured it out. He was the first person who told me I was smart, like scary smart, the kind of smart people don't always understand, and he made me believe it for years. Mason didn't live with us, he drifted in and out like a traveling storyteller, always with a new tale about a road trip or a business idea or a girl who almost loved him. He called me kiddo and ruffled my hair and gave me confidence like candy. And then when I was 12 everything changed. Mom had surgery and couldn't work for a while, so Mason moved and said he'd help take care of things, said it was time he gave back all the love we gave him, and at first it felt like a dream. I mean, who wouldn't want their favorite person around all the time? He cooked us weird dinners like spaghetti tacos and peanut butter omelets, and we'd laugh even when it tasted awful. He helped me build a model volcano for science class and cheered louder than anyone when it erupted across the living room. But then little things started changing. He started sleeping in late, skipping chores, borrowing Mom's car without asking, and shrugging when she asked where he'd been. He'd promise to pay her back for groceries, then forget to buy groceries. He said his big project was almost ready, but we never saw what that project was. He'd sit on the couch watching TV for hours, then disappear at night and come back with red eyes and a too wide smile. Mom got quieter, she smiled less, she started taking on extra freelance work even when she was still sore from surgery. I asked if we were okay and she said always, but her hands trembled when she opened the bills. The fridge got emptier, but Mason's room got fuller. A new gaming system, a fancy watch, a pair of shoes that still had tags. He said friends gave them to him. I didn't believe him, not really. Then I came home from school one day and my bike was gone. He said he borrowed it but never brought it back. Then my headphones vanished. Then the emergency money jar Mom kept above the fridge was just dust and air. When I told Mason, he laughed like I'd accused him of stealing the moon and said maybe I lost them, maybe I should stop pointing fingers if I wanted to be trusted. I told Mom and she just looked tired, said maybe he was struggling, said family's complicated. I started writing things down, a list of missing items, dates when weird stuff happened, strange people I saw in the house when she wasn't home. I didn't know why I was keeping track, but it felt like something I had to do. Mason started inviting people over late, random people, loud people, people who didn't look at me when I walked through the room. I found cigarette butts in the sink and strange powders on the table. Once I asked Mom if she noticed and she said we had to be patient, said Mason had been through a lot, said maybe we just needed to show him love. But love doesn't explain bruises on her wrist, love doesn't explain shaking hands and jumpy eyes, love doesn't explain waking up to shouting and a smashed lamp and Mason saying it was an accident and her nodding like that made it okay. One night I hid in the closet with my phone recording everything, his voice echoing through the hall, calling Mom names, yelling about money, about how we didn't respect him, about how he gave up everything to be here. I sent the recording to my aunt. I sent the photos of the house, of the mess, of Mom's tear-streaked face, and she called the next day, said pack a bag, we're coming. Mom didn't argue this time, she just nodded like she'd finally run out of excuses. We left while Mason was asleep, left a note and a file folder I'd built with every shred of evidence I had, and when he called crying saying I'd betrayed him, saying family doesn't turn on family, I finally said what I'd been too afraid to say before: you stopped being family when you stopped protecting us. I was 12, but I knew this much: heroes don't take, they give, they don't break, they build, and sometimes the people you love the most can become the people you have to protect others from. And I was done waiting for someone to save us, because I realized maybe, just maybe, I was the one holding the cape now. The day after that call I packed my things in silence. I didn't slam doors or yell, I just folded my life into 2 suitcases and left. Dad watched from the porch, not saying anything, not even when I paused by the car hoping for something, maybe an apology, maybe a reason, maybe anything, but there was nothing, just the sound of the wind and his arms folded across his chest like I was a stranger, not the daughter he once tucked in every night. I moved in with my Aunt Lisa on the other side of town. She had always believed me, always said there was something off about Veronica, but she didn't have proof, and that's what everyone needed: proof, not instincts, not bruises, not memories. So I set out to get it. I started with the swim center, the one where Veronica still coached. I signed up as a volunteer under a different name, used my middle name and my mom's maiden name. I told them I was a college student studying sports psychology. They didn't question it because people like Veronica never expect the quiet Once to fight back I watched her for weeks, the way she pushed the kids, the way she smiled while doing it like pain was part of the plan. I recorded everything, whispered voice notes, took photos of her training logs, marked every suspicious injury. I compiled a file so big it took up a whole flash drive. Then one day I saw Ethan there. He wasn't in a wheelchair anymore. He was walking slowly with braces and a cane, but walking. He looked older, tired. Not the brother I remembered. I followed him to the parking lot and called out his name. He froze, turned slowly, and when he saw me his face did something I'll never forget. It broke, not with anger or hate but with regret, deep full body regret. He hugged me first, the kind of hug that says I'm sorry without words. We sat in his car for 2 hours just talking. He told me everything, how Veronica isolated him, convinced him he was a burden, that I had abandoned him, how she filled the house with lies and pills, how he tried once to confront Dad and ended up locked out of his own bank account. She made him dependent financially, emotionally, everything. I showed him the evidence, the files, the photos, the training logs. He cried, said he had tried once too, had gone to the Federation, but his report disappeared, probably intercepted. He believed me now, not just in his heart but with his eyes, with his logic. We made a plan, we'd go public, not just to the school or the swim center but to the media, to advocacy groups, to anyone who would listen, because this wasn't just about Ethan anymore. It was about every kid, every athlete, every family that ever got crushed under the weight of someone like Veronica. We contacted a journalist from the local paper. She'd covered sports abuse cases before. She was skeptical at first until she saw the file. Her hands trembled as she read, then she whispered, we need to go bigger. She connected us with a national outlet, a news program that aired investigative reports. Within 2 weeks our story was being prepped for broadcast, but we kept it quiet. Only Lisa knew, and Ethan told one friend, a swimmer who'd also been hurt under Veronica's program. We filmed interviews, gave testimony, provided every piece of data we had. In just 3 days before the episode was set to air, Veronica disappeared, not vanished like a fugitive but retired suddenly. No warning, no farewell, just an email to the team and a disconnected number. Dad was confused, called me, asked if I knew where she'd gone. I didn't lie, I told him the truth, told him everything, and for the first time in years he didn't defend her. He just sighed and said, I think I always knew. We watched the news segment together, not in the same room but at the same time, Ethan with Lisa and me with my laptop. The story was brutal, factual. It exposed the injuries, the cover-ups, the silence. It named names including Veronica and cited our evidence. Then the phones rang non-stop, messages, emails, texts from old friends, teachers, swim parents, all saying the same thing, we believe you. Now the Swimming Federation opened an official investigation. The school removed her name from every plaque, every wall. Dad left the house, moved into a small apartment near Lisa. He asked if I could ever forgive him. I said maybe someday. When I believe you forgave yourself. Ethan started writing again, not in secret this time. His notebook turned into a blog, then a newsletter, then a movement for athlete safety. He spoke at conferences and schools, used his story as a warning and a call to action. I started grad school studying trauma recovery for youth athletes, the kind of degree Veronica once claimed to have, and I wrote 2 long essays, emotional pieces, reflections about silence and voice, about family and betrayal, about how healing isn't a straight line. One day I got a letter from a mother in another state. Her daughter had trained under someone like Veronica, and because of our story she'd pulled her out early, saved her before it was too late. That's when I knew the pain wasn't wasted. It had become purpose, and that purpose had become power. Veronica was never charged formally. The evidence was enough to strip her title, ban her from coaching and freeze her pension, but not enough for prison, and that's okay because she lost the thing she valued most, her image, her control, her voice, and I gained mine back. Ethan and I still meet every week, sometimes to talk, sometimes just to sit and be siblings again. Our story isn't about revenge, it's about truth, it's about breaking the cycle, about looking monsters in the eye and saying not anymore. It's about choosing peace, not silence, and it's about family, real family, the kind that doesn't break under pressure but reforms stronger on the other side. 3 months after the hearing, life settled into a strange new rhythm. Veronica was gone from our lives, but the shadows she left behind still touched every room in the house. Dad kept mostly to himself, sometimes falling into long silences, staring at old pictures of Ethan as if trying to rewrite history in his mind. Ethan and I started cooking together. He couldn't do much with his hands, but he'd read out recipes from his tablet and I'd follow his lead. It became our way of healing. No big conversations, just quiet cooperation. One night while making spaghetti he told me he wanted to start visiting schools to speak to young athletes about injury prevention and mental health. He said if even one coach changed their methods it would be worth it. I felt something shift inside me, like we were finally taking our pain and turning it into something real. He asked if I'd come with him to his first talk. I said yes with a lump in my throat. Watching him speak to those teenagers was surreal. They looked at him with a mix of awe and empathy, and when he played the recording of his old self talking about fear and pressure, half the room was in tears, including me. Afterward, a girl with a cast on her leg hugged him so hard I thought she might fall over. She said, "I thought I was weak because I quit. Now I know I was brave." Ethan just smiled and said, "Healing takes more courage than winning." Later that night I cried in the car, not out of sadness but because for the first time I felt proud of all we had survived. The trauma didn't own us anymore, we were using it as fuel, not fire. Dad slowly came around. He started joining us for dinner again and even helped Ethan assemble the brochure for his new foundation. He wasn't the same man who ignored our cries for help, but he was trying, and trying mattered. We all went to therapy separately and sometimes together. Facing everything that had happened wasn't easy, especially when trust had been shattered in so many quiet ways. One night Ethan showed me a message from Kathy, his ex. She apologized for staying silent during the worst days of his recovery. She said she'd carry that guilt forever. Ethan didn't reply right away, but a week later he sent her a thank you, not for the apology but for acknowledging the truth. She wrote back saying she'd started volunteering at a rehab center for injured athletes. That little moment of redemption reminded me that people can change if they want to change. Meanwhile, I finished my training in advocacy and started speaking at local events about family systems and the dangers of emotional gaslighting. I met other people like me, people who had been labeled unstable or dramatic, only to later uncover real abuse and negligence. We shared stories, we laughed, we cried, and in that circle I realized how powerful truth really is, not as a weapon but as a flashlight in the dark. Veronica never contacted us again. We occasionally heard updates through legal channels. Her license was permanently revoked. Her insurance fraud case was closed with financial penalties. She now worked part-time in an unrelated field under supervision. Court-ordered therapy continued, and from what we knew she was complying. None of us wanted revenge anymore, just distance and peace. Ethan's foundation grew slowly but steadily with the help of generous donations and former teammates who came forward to support the mission. The adaptive sports program we dreamed of was launched with Ethan as its first ambassador. I helped write the safety protocols, drawing from every scar we had ever earned and every lesson we refused to let go to waste. 1 year after the hearing, we hosted our first community event. Athletes with different abilities, parents, coaches and advocates gathered in the same space and celebrated resilience. I gave a speech about what it means to believe someone even when their pain makes you uncomfortable. I ended with these words: the truth is not always clean or convenient, but it is always worth fighting for. After the event, a boy with tremors in his hands asked Ethan how he kept going. Ethan just said, "I stopped trying to win and started trying to matter." Later we sat on the porch, the sun setting behind the trees, and I told Ethan I was proud of him. He smiled and said, "I'm proud of you too, for not letting go even when no one believed you." We sat in silence watching fireflies dance in the distance, and I thought about all we'd lost and all we'd found too. We didn't get justice the way movies portray it. No courtroom slamming gavels, no grand apologies, but we got clarity, we got change, and we got each other back. And in this world that is full of noise and denial, that kind of peace is the loudest thing of all.
My personal reflection: some wounds may never fully heal, but they can still carry meaning. This story is about trust, betrayal, and the courage to begin again. All of us go through moments where we feel alone in our own truth. But even in that loneliness, this proves that hope and reconnection are still possible. Now a question for you: if it were you, could you forgive?